Hello friend, and welcome to Science for Sleep. Tonight, we are spending some time with dragonflies. They are easy to miss at first. A small shape above a pond, a soft flicker of wings over still water, a thin body resting on a reed, almost motionless in the warm air. But the longer you look at a dragonfly, the stranger and more beautiful it begins to feel. At first, it may seem like a simple summer insect, something light, delicate, and brief. But dragonflies are far more remarkable than they appear. They belong to a line of life so old that it reaches deep into Earth's past. Long before people stood beside ponds and watched them hover in the sunlight, creatures like dragonflies were already part of the world. There is something ancient in the way they move. Even now, they do not fly like most other insects. A dragonfly can hold itself almost perfectly still in the air, as if it has paused there on purpose. Then, in an instant, it can dart forward, turn sharply, rise, drop, or even move backward. Its motion can seem so exact that it hardly looks real. It does not flutter in a loose or uncertain way. It seems guided, balanced, and sure. Part of this comes from the wings. Dragonflies have 4 wings, and each one can be controlled with unusual freedom. Instead of moving as one simple pair, the wings can shift in timing in small and subtle ways. That gives the dragonfly an extraordinary level of control. It helps explain why it can hover over water so calmly, then change direction so quickly that the eye can barely follow. What looks graceful from a distance is also highly precise. And then there are the eyes. A dragonfly's eyes are so large that they seem to take over almost the whole head. They are made of thousands of tiny lenses, gathered together into 2 great curved surfaces. Because of this, a dragonfly can see nearly all the way around itself. The air around a pond, which may seem empty to us, is not empty to a dragonfly at all. It is full of movement, light, direction, and tiny shifting details. This is one reason dragonflies are such skilled hunters. They do not just wander through the air and hope to find food. They are able to notice motion with amazing speed and accuracy. When they chase other insects, they often do something even more impressive than following behind. They move toward where the other insect is going to be. They meet it in the air with astonishing precision. Their legs can even form a kind of basket beneath the body, helping them catch prey while still flying. So the dragonfly that appears peaceful over a pond is not sleepy or aimless. It is alert in a very quiet way, calm-looking but deeply aware. And still, even this is only part of the story. The dragonfly most people notice is the adult, the shining one in the sunlight. But that visible stage is only the final chapter of a much longer life. Before a dragonfly ever rises into the air, it spends most of its life in another world entirely. Hidden underwater, among stems, roots, mud, and still green shadows, it lives as a nymph. There, it grows slowly, sometimes for years, before ever unfolding its wings. So when you see a dragonfly above the water, you are not just seeing a creature of the air. You are seeing the result of a long hidden life beneath the surface. And for some dragonflies, even that is not the end of their strangeness. A few species are capable of journeys so long that they seem almost impossible for something so light. One small dragonfly, known as the globe skimmer, can be part of a migration that stretches across huge distances, even across oceanic routes, over generations. The same kind of insect that may hover beside a quiet pond can also belong to one of the most astonishing travel stories in the natural world. So tonight, as we begin, it helps to let go of the idea that a dragonfly is only a small summer insect. It is a creature of air, water, light, timing, and age. It is delicate, but also highly capable. It is familiar, but also deeply strange. And perhaps that is why dragonflies leave such a strong feeling behind when we notice them. They seem to carry more inside them than their size should allow. A pond, a season, a hidden underwater life, and the distant past of the earth all seem to meet in that one small body, hovering softly above the water. There are many insects that pass through the world almost unnoticed. They buzz by, flicker past, or vanish before the eye has time to settle on them. A person may hear them more than see them, or notice only a small blur moving through the corner of vision. But dragonflies often feel different from the very first moment they appear. They do not seem like a blur. They seem present. Part of this comes from the way a dragonfly holds itself in space. It can hover so steadily that it almost looks suspended, as if the air has briefly agreed to carry it in one exact spot. Then, after that pause, it may move again with total confidence, gliding forward or turning sharply, without any sign of hesitation. This makes a dragonfly feel less like something being pushed around by the air, and more like something reading it, using it, and settling into it. That gives dragonflies a kind of stillness, even while they are flying. Many insects feel restless. Their movement can seem scattered or hurried. A dragonfly, by contrast, often feels controlled. Even quick motion does not always look frantic. It looks measured. There is a sense that each movement belongs exactly where it is, whether the dragonfly is hovering above a pond, tracing the edge of tall grass, or resting on a thin reed in the sun. Its shape adds to this feeling. A dragonfly has a long, narrow body that looks almost drawn with a single line. The wings spread out from the middle in a clear cross-like form, held open in a way that makes the whole insect easy to read from a distance. Nothing about it looks fluffy, soft, or hidden. Its form is clean and visible. A butterfly folds and opens. A bee feels compact and busy. A dragonfly looks open to the world around it, almost like a living frame of wing, light, and air. The wings matter a great deal here. They are transparent, but not empty. When the light catches them, the fine structure inside them becomes visible, like thin glass traced with delicate lines. This gives dragonflies a rare kind of beauty. They seem both natural and almost crafted, as though they were made with unusual care. Depending on the angle, the wings may flash brightly, disappear almost completely, or shimmer for just a second before becoming clear again. This changing appearance helps make dragonflies memorable. They do not stay visually fixed. They shift with light. One moment the body may look dark and slender against the sky. The next, it may glow blue, green, or bronze. The wings may reflect sunlight and then vanish into transparency. This gives dragonflies a quality that feels slightly unreal, not because they are hard to see, but because they never look exactly the same for long. They also tend to appear alone. This changes how people experience them. A swarm of insects can feel like part of the background, but a single dragonfly often feels like an event inside the landscape. It arrives, hovers, settles somewhere nearby, and becomes easy to follow with the eye. Because of that, people often remember a dragonfly as an individual presence rather than a passing insect. It is something noticed, not just something encountered. There is also the setting. Dragonflies are often seen near water, reeds, pond edges, riverbanks, and warm summer plants. These are places where people are already more likely to slow down. The world is quieter there. The air may feel heavy and warm. The surface of the water may be still enough to reflect the sky. In that kind of setting, a dragonfly seems to belong perfectly. It does not interrupt the scene. It completes it. This may be one reason dragonflies often leave such a calm impression, even though they are highly skilled hunters. Their movements are exact, but their surroundings are often gentle. Sunlight, water, still plants, and open air soften the whole experience of seeing them. So what remains in memory is not just speed or precision, but a feeling of balance. A dragonfly can seem delicate, mechanical, ancient, and alive all at once. It carries something that many insects do not. Not just motion, but character. Not just beauty, but shape. Not just activity, but presence. And once that feeling begins to settle in, it becomes natural to look more closely at the body itself, because much of what makes a dragonfly feel so unusual begins with the way it is built. A dragonfly may look simple at first glance. A long body, 4 wings, a small head, thin legs. But the closer it is seen, the more carefully arranged it becomes. Nothing about a dragonfly feels random. Its whole body seems shaped around movement, balance, and awareness, as if each part has been refined for a life spent reading the air. The head is the first thing many people notice up close. It is large compared with the rest of the body, and much of that space is taken up by the eyes. From the front, the eyes seem almost too big for the animal, curving outward and taking over nearly the entire face. This gives the dragonfly an unusual appearance, as though it is made first for seeing and only second for everything else. That impression is not far from the truth. For a dragonfly, vision is central. The head is built to support a life in which noticing movement quickly matters. Even the position of the eyes helps with this, giving the dragonfly broad awareness around itself. The head can also move in relation to the body, which helps the dragonfly stay visually connected to the world while perched or in flight. Just behind the head is the thorax, which is the middle part of the body. This is where much of the dragonfly's power is held. The thorax contains the strong muscles that move the wings, making it the true engine of the insect. It may not seem especially large at first, but it carries the work of flight. If the wings are what make dragonflies so impressive to watch, the thorax is what makes those wings useful. The legs are attached here as well. At first, they may look almost too thin to matter very much. Dragonfly legs are not built for walking long distances or clinging to the ground in the way some other insects do. Instead, they are arranged in a way that suits perching and catching. When a dragonfly is resting, The legs can grip a stem, reed, or branch with quiet steadiness. And when it is flying, those same legs can help gather prey out of the air. This is another sign that the dragonfly's body is not designed for general life on land. It is designed for a very particular kind of life, one that depends more on perching, seeing, and flying than on crawling or digging. A dragonfly can land, of course, but it never seems fully made for the ground. Even at rest, it looks like something ready to return to the air. Then there is the abdomen, the long rear section of the body. This is what gives the dragonfly much of its graceful shape. It is narrow, extended, and flexible, helping the insect maintain balance and position while moving. The abdomen also gives the body a sense of direction, like a line drawn through the air. It helps make dragonflies look sleek rather than round, and steady rather than soft. When a dragonfly flies, all of these parts work together. The head is reading the world. The thorax is powering the wings. The legs are ready to perch or catch. The abdomen is helping guide the body's position in space. What seems like a small insect becomes something more unified than that. A living design in which form and function are closely tied. Even the proportions matter. Dragonflies do not look crowded or compact. Their shape has openness in it. The wings spread out clearly from the center. The abdomen trails cleanly behind. The legs fold beneath. The whole body is easy to read with the eye. And perhaps that is one reason dragonflies feel so distinct from other insects. They look organized in a visible way. There is beauty in that organization. Not the soft beauty of petals or fur, but the beauty of structure that fits its purpose perfectly. A dragonfly does not need to be decorated to seem elegant. Its elegance comes from how clearly every part belongs to the life it lives. And nowhere is that more visible than in the wings. Because while the body gives the dragonfly its shape, the wings give it its voice in the air. They are what turn all that quiet design into motion, and what allow the dragonfly to do things that still seem almost impossible when seen above a summer pond. By the time a dragonfly lifts into open air, its body already feels carefully made for motion. But the true wonder begins when the wings begin to work together, or rather, when they do not work as one single unit at all. A dragonfly has 4 wings, and that matters in a deeper way than it may first seem. Many insects fly with wing movements that feel more joined, more repetitive, almost like the body is repeating one simple action again and again. A dragonfly is different. Its front wings and back wings can shift their timing in small ways, and each wing can change angle with unusual freedom. That means the dragonfly is not simply flapping, it is adjusting. This is part of why its flight can look so calm. A dragonfly hanging above still water may seem almost motionless, as though it has paused in the air and chosen to remain there. Yet that stillness is not empty. Tiny corrections are happening all the time. The wings are making fine changes too small for the eye to follow, keeping the body lifted, balanced, and steady. The air around the insect is being used with great care, and because that control is so refined, the effort itself becomes almost invisible. That hidden effort creates a strange kind of beauty. A butterfly can look soft and wandering. A housefly can look abrupt and restless. A dragonfly often looks exact. Even when it moves quickly, the motion rarely seems messy. It seems placed. The body stays long and level. The wings remain open and clear. The movement has a neatness to it, as if the dragonfly is following lines in the air that were already there, waiting to be read. This is why hovering feels so memorable. When a dragonfly hovers over a pond edge, a stem, or a patch of sunlit grass, it does not seem trapped in the air. It seems comfortable there. The body does not wobble much. The pause feels intentional. Then, almost without warning, it can move again. Forward, upward, downward, sideways, and in some cases even backward. It can stop quickly, turn sharply, and hold itself in place again. All of this becomes possible because the four wings are not locked into one pattern. They are constantly making subtle decisions together. The timing between the front wings and the back wings is especially important. When that timing shifts, the dragonfly can change how it moves the air around itself. In some situations, this gives it more lift and better control. It can even make hovering more efficient than it would be if the wings were working in a simpler paired motion. So the dragonfly is not only staying up through force, it is shaping the air with precision. That helps explain why such a small creature can look so composed while doing something so demanding. Seen closely, this makes the dragonfly feel almost mechanical, but never cold. Its wings are transparent and delicate looking, yet they are doing highly exact work. They flash in the light, vanish against the sky, then reappear as thin, bright panes crossed with veins. The body remains narrow and balanced between them. Nothing looks bulky, nothing looks wasted. The whole design seems to favor control without heaviness and freedom without confusion. That balance gives dragonfly flight its special feeling. It is active but not frantic, fast but not rushed, powerful but not loud. The dragonfly does not seem to batter the air into submission. It seems to cooperate with it, finding lift, angle, and timing in a way that makes the movement feel smooth enough to almost resemble slow motion, even when it happens quickly. And because of that, the dragonfly begins to feel different from many other flying insects in a very deep way. It does not appear to be at the mercy of the wind. It seems aware within it. The four wings do not simply carry the body from one place to another. They let the dragonfly pause, redirect, balance, and hold itself with a level of grace that can seem almost unreal above summer water. But wings alone are not enough to create flight like this. Such precise motion depends on another kind of control as well, because a dragonfly must do more than move through the air. It must also read it, notice it, and remain aware of almost everything happening around it at once. Once the wings are understood a little better, the dragonfly begins to feel less like a delicate summer insect and more like one of the finest flyers in the natural world. Its flight is not simply pretty. It is deeply capable. A dragonfly can do things in the air that seem out of proportion to its size, and perhaps even out of proportion to how calm it looks while doing them. It can hover in place, then shoot forward with startling speed. It can rise almost straight upward, dip back down, shift sideways, and in some cases even move backward. Then, just as suddenly, it can stop again and hang in the air as if nothing unusual has happened. That combination is what makes its flight so memorable. Speed alone would be impressive, but many creatures can move quickly. What feels different about a dragonfly is the control. It does not simply rush through space. It seems to know exactly where its body is, exactly how much movement is needed, and exactly when to change direction. Even when it makes a sharp turn, the motion can look clean rather than chaotic. It is not a blur losing control. It is a living body redirecting itself with precision. This becomes especially striking near water. A dragonfly may be moving above reeds, grasses, stems, and reflections, all of which create a busy and uneven space. Yet it can travel through that space with remarkable confidence. It does not need a wide open sky to fly well. It can weave through clutter, skim low over the pond, then rise and pause again, all while keeping its path neat and controlled. It seems equally at home above open water and near the crowded edges where plants are thickest. There is a quiet intelligence in the way it moves. Not intelligence in the human sense, but a kind of perfect responsiveness. The dragonfly is constantly adjusting to air, space, and motion. The body remains balanced. The wings keep working in subtle shifts. The result is a style of flight that can feel almost thought-like. A pause, a turn, a rise, another pause. It is easy to see why people remember dragonflies so vividly after watching them, because their movement seems less random than that of many other insects. Some dragonflies can also move at impressive speed when they need to. But even then, the speed does not always look wild. Their long bodies help keep their shape clear in the air, and their motion often remains smooth enough that the eye can still follow the line of the body. They do not seem to tumble into speed. They seem to enter it. There is a difference between something being carried by motion and something directing it, and dragonflies often feel like the second kind. Their turns are another part of the wonder. Many flying creatures need room to curve. A dragonfly often seems able to turn within a much smaller space. It can reverse direction in just a few wing beats, pivoting with a quickness that feels almost impossible to track. One moment, it is heading away from the pond edge. The next, it is back again, retracing the same area as though the air itself has folds and corners invisible to us. Watching this can create a strange feeling that the dragonfly belongs to a more detailed version of space than the one we normally notice. And yet, none of this makes it feel heavy or forceful. That may be one of the loveliest things about dragonfly flight. It is powerful, but not loud. It is exact, but not stiff. It is fast, but not rushed. The dragonfly never seems to throw itself around carelessly. Even sudden movement feels measured. There is very little waste in what it does. The body does not wobble much. The pauses do not feel accidental. The turns do not feel desperate. Everything seems shaped by a kind of built-in steadiness. This is one reason dragonflies can seem so peaceful, even when they are doing something demanding. A dragonfly hovering above a pond is working hard in ways the eye cannot easily see, but the effort has been refined into grace. That refinement changes how the whole scene feels. What might otherwise look like a tiny predator in constant motion instead becomes part of the quiet beauty of the landscape. The flight blends into the still water, the warm air, and the tall plants around it, until precision itself, begins to look restful. The more a person watches, the more dragonfly flight begins to feel like a meeting point between freedom and control. It can go almost anywhere, yet it rarely looks aimless. It can move quickly, yet it rarely looks hurried. It can stop in open air, then leave that still point in an instant, all without losing the feeling of balance that makes it so distinct. And that balance depends on something deeper than wings and muscles alone. Because to move through the world this well, a dragonfly must also be able to see the world around it with extraordinary clarity. A close look at a dragonfly's face explains a great deal. The eyes do not merely sit on the head. They seem to form the head. From the front, a dragonfly can look almost as though it is made of vision first and body second. Two huge curved eyes rise up on either side, meeting so closely in some species that the face between them seems to nearly disappear. It gives the dragonfly a strange and unforgettable look, not frightening, but deeply unusual, as if the world has shaped this small animal around the act of seeing. And in many ways, it has. Each of those great eyes is not a single smooth window like a human eye. It is made of thousands upon thousands of tiny visual units. Together, the two eyes can contain up to around 30,000 little lenses, each taking in a small part of the world. A human eye sees through one lens and one focused image. A dragonfly gathers vision in a different way, building its view out of many small parts at once. This helps explain why its eyes seem so large. A dragonfly does not glance at the world. It surrounds itself with sight. Because of that, its field of view comes close to wrapping around the whole body. For us, there is always a clear front and a clear back. There is the part of the room we are looking at, and the part that fades beyond our awareness. A dragonfly lives with much less separation than that. The air around it, the space above the water, the movement near reeds and stems, all of it remains present in a broad, curved field of awareness. It can notice what is ahead, what is to the side, and much of what is happening behind it, all while remaining in motion. This is one reason dragonflies seem so sure of themselves in the air. They are not flying into emptiness and hoping for the best. The sky above a pond may look open and simple to us, but to a dragonfly, it is full of detail. Tiny insects move through it. Reflections shift on the water. Shadows cross over stems. Light flashes on the surface and then breaks apart again. A dragonfly is highly sensitive to movement, which means even small changes in that wide field of vision can matter. A flicker, a turn, a shift in direction, all of it becomes useful information. That sensitivity to motion is one of the dragonfly's greatest strengths. Many animals can see a scene. A dragonfly is especially good at noticing what changes inside the scene. This makes sense for a creature whose life depends on fast movement above water and among plants. It does not need to study stillness for long. It needs to catch the quick things. So its vision is tuned to motion in a way that makes the whole world feel active, alive with tiny signals passing through the air. And the world it sees is not limited to the same light humans see. Dragonflies can detect a broader range of light than we can, including wavelengths beyond normal human sight. So while we see blue sky, green reeds, and bright water, a dragonfly may be receiving a richer pattern than that, one filled with cues and contrasts we never notice. The surface of a pond, the shimmer of another wing, the outline of a moving insect, all of it may stand out differently to a creature whose vision reaches further into light than our own. This gives the dragonfly a very different kind of day. The world above the pond is not just bright or dim. It is layered with signals. Sunlight is not only warmth and color, it is information. Air is not only empty space. It is a moving field filled with paths, flickers, and shifting points of attention. Even stillness is not truly still, because somewhere in that wide curve of vision, something is always changing. That helps explain why a dragonfly can hover with such confidence. Its body may be light, but its awareness is immense. It is not drifting through blank summer air. It is moving through a detailed world of motion, direction, and light, where almost every part of the space around it can be noticed at once. And when an animal sees the world that clearly, seeing does not remain passive for long. It becomes the beginning of action, the quiet turning of awareness into movement. Dragonflies do not simply chase what is in front of them. Very often, they aim for where something is going to be. That small difference changes everything. It means a dragonfly is not only fast, it is also timed. When a tiny insect moves through the air above a pond, the dragonfly does not always follow behind it in a long, uncertain pursuit. Instead, it often adjusts its path toward the point where the other insect is about to arrive. It meets motion with motion. It turns the air into a place of quiet prediction. This is one reason dragonfly hunting can look so smooth. Many kinds of pursuit look frantic. There is swerving, correction, sudden error, and then another attempt. A dragonfly often does something different. Its movement can appear clean, almost simple, even though something highly skillful is taking place. It notices a target, adjusts its line, and closes the distance with a kind of neat certainty. From far away, it may look as if nothing dramatic happened at all. One moment, the dragonfly is hovering. The next, it has passed through a patch of air and already taken what it needed. This ability depends on more than speed. It depends on the dragonfly's eyes, its control in flight, and its constant sensitivity to motion. The air above water is not always open and empty. It can be visually busy. Reeds sway, reflections flicker. Tiny insects cross one another's paths. Light shifts on the pond surface. Yet dragonflies can keep track of prey even in settings like this, where a human eye might lose the target almost immediately. They remain focused within a moving world. That focus is part of what makes them such effective hunters. Their success is unusually high, not because they force their way through the air, but because they combine seeing and movement so well. A dragonfly can recognize where another insect is heading, turn with precision, and arrive at the right place with remarkable timing. The whole body seems built for this kind of action. The wings provide control. The eyes provide awareness. And beneath the body, even the legs have their own role to play. The legs of a dragonfly are not especially useful for walking. They are not shaped for a long life on leaves, bark, or soil. But in the air, they become extremely useful. When a dragonfly moves in on prey, the legs can form a kind of basket beneath the body. This basket-like shape helps scoop small insects from the air, while the dragonfly remains in flight. It is such a simple and elegant solution. The dragonfly does not need to land. It does not need to stop. It can continue moving, catching, and carrying on, almost within the same breath of motion. This helps keep the whole act of hunting surprisingly quiet. There is no obvious struggle most of the time. No dramatic pause. No visible burst of effort that ruins the calm appearance of the dragonfly in the summer air. Much of what it does happens so quickly and so cleanly that the movement feels less like attack and more like timing. A line closes. A path intersects. The insect that was flying a moment ago is gone. The dragonfly continues on. That smoothness changes how the whole animal feels to us. If dragonflies hunted in a clumsy or noisy way, they might seem harsh, but they usually do not. They seem alert without seeming agitated, exact without seeming tense. Even while hunting, they often keep the same composed quality they have while hovering over a pond. They remain part of the stillness of the scene, even as they act inside it. And that may be one of the strangest things about them. A dragonfly can appear peaceful and highly active at the same time. It can look delicate while being deeply capable. It can hang in the air like a small ornament of light. And yet, beneath that graceful stillness is an animal constantly measuring motion, adjusting course, and making use of the wide moving world around it. The more closely this is noticed, the more the dragonfly above the pond begins to feel finely tuned in every possible way. Its flight is not random. Its attention is not scattered. Its actions do not waste much. Everything seems connected. Seeing leads to movement. Movement leads to timing. Timing leads to success. All of it happens so smoothly that the dragonfly seems less like a creature forcing its way through the air and more like one perfectly matched to it. Yet even this airborne life, for all its precision, is only the visible chapter. The dragonfly in sunlight is the form people know best. The bright hunter above the reeds and open water. But its story does not begin there. Beneath the pond surface, in a quieter and darker world of stems, roots, mud, and drifting green light, another life has already been unfolding for far longer. To understand dragonflies fully, the air is not enough. Their real beginning is tied to fresh water. A dragonfly may be one of the clearest signs of summer air. It may hover over a pond, skim along reeds, or rest on a stem warmed by the sun. Everything about the adult seems connected to light, movement, and open space. But that visible life depends on water so completely that without ponds, marshes, stream edges, and wetlands, dragonflies as we know them could not exist. Water is where the story starts. Dragonflies lay their eggs in or near fresh water. Some place them directly into the water. Others place them on aquatic plants or in damp places very close to the surface. The exact method can vary from one kind of dragonfly to another, but the pattern remains the same. The next life stage is always waiting for water. Even before a dragonfly becomes the shining adult people notice in sunlight, it already belongs to a quieter world below. This is why freshwater places matter so much. A pond is not only a place where dragonflies happen to fly, it is a place where they begin. a marsh is not only a good hunting ground for adults, it is part of the nursery of their lives. A slow stream edge, a wetland full of reeds, a shallow pool with water plants. These are not background details. They are the foundation of the dragonfly's existence. And those places offer more than just water alone. They provide surfaces, shelter, and structure. Aquatic plants give eggs a place to be laid, and young dragonflies a place to grow among stems and shadows. Reeds and grasses at the edge give adults places to rest, warm themselves, and return again and again as they hunt. Later, those same stems may become the ladders by which the young leave the water and climb into the air. So the plants at the edge of a pond are not separate from the dragonfly story. They are woven into it from beginning to end. This helps explain why dragonflies are so often seen near water rather than far from it. Even when adults are strong flyers, the pull of fresh water remains. It is where they mate, where they lay eggs, where the next generation will grow, and where much of their visible life continues to circle back. A dragonfly may move through open air with great freedom, but its life still loops around the quiet gravity of water. Different dragonflies may prefer different kinds of freshwater places. Some are more at home near still ponds. Others prefer marshes, lake edges, or slower parts of streams and rivers. Some may favor places thick with vegetation, while others do well in more open water with scattered plants nearby. But beneath these differences, the same thread remains. Water is the common need. It is the condition that ties the whole group together. That makes the dragonfly feel like a creature of two worlds. It belongs to the air, certainly. That is where it is most visible, most radiant, and most easily admired. But it also belongs to water in a deeper and more lasting way. The adult in sunlight is only one expression of a life that begins in a hidden wet world. Every hover above a pond, every turn near the reeds, every pause on a waterside stem is connected to that older bond. This can change the way a pond feels once it is noticed. A dragonfly above still water is no longer just decorating the scene. It is part of the pond itself. Its presence tells you that the water below is not empty. There are layers to that place. Eggs may be there. Young forms may be there. Roots, mud, drifting plant matter, and small underwater creatures may all be part of the same quiet system that made the dragonfly possible. So when a dragonfly glides through sunlight, it carries fresh water with it in a way that is easy to overlook. The body may be moving through air, but its life is still anchored to the water below. The pond is not merely the setting, it is the source. And that hidden life beneath the surface is not brief. In many cases, it is the largest part of the dragonfly's existence, unfolding slowly in silence while the world above sees almost nothing at all. Now let the scene drop below the pond surface, into mud, stems, roots, and drifting particles of light. Here the dragonfly looks entirely different. The bright adult that hovers in the summer air is only one version of this animal. Beneath the water, before wings and sunlight and open flight, there is another form. It is quieter in appearance, heavier in shape, and much easier to overlook. If the adult dragonfly seems made of light and motion, the nymph seems made for stillness, concealment, and patience. This hidden form spends most of its life underwater. That alone can feel surprising. When people think of dragonflies, they usually imagine the adult, the slender body above the pond, the clear wings catching the sun. But the larger part of a dragonfly's existence happens below the surface, in a world of mud, roots, shadows, and water plants. The insect that seems so completely at home in the air begins its life in a place that is quiet, green, and submerged. And in that underwater world, it does not look delicate at all. A dragonfly nymph has a body that is much more compact than the adults. It is squat rather than slender, sturdy rather than airy. The shape makes sense for the life it lives. It does not need to glide through open sky. It needs to stay low among stems, rest against mud, slip through underwater growth, and remain unnoticed until the right moment comes. Its body is shaped not for display, but for survival in a close and crowded environment. The colors help with that too. Where the adult dragonfly may flash blue, green, bronze, or red in the light, the nymph often blends into its surroundings. Brown, muted green, and other earthy tones help it disappear among plant matter, dark sediment, and the dim lower world beneath the waterline. It belongs to a place where hiding matters. In the pond, being seen too easily is not always a gift. This gives the dragonfly a kind of double life. Above the water, it becomes a creature of air. Below the water, it begins as a creature of concealment. The two forms are connected, but they feel very far apart. One is open, bright, and easy to admire. The other is tucked into the underwater margins, moving through a slower and darker world that most people never think about when they see a dragonfly in flight. And yet, the nymph is not passive. It is already a predator. Long before it rises into the air and begins hunting flying insects, the dragonfly spends its underwater life feeding on other small animals. It may hunt mosquito larvae, tiny aquatic insects, and other creatures that share the pond. This means the dragonfly's life has a kind of continuity to it. It is not one thing underwater and another thing entirely above it. In both stages, it is alert, capable, and shaped by the need to notice movement and act with timing. Still, the feeling of the underwater stage is very different. The adult dragonfly often seems defined by motion you can see, hovering, turning, darting, pausing. The nymph feels more defined by what it does not reveal. It can remain still among the plants. It can wait in the shadows. It can exist in a pond without ever drawing attention to itself. If the adult seems like a brief bright presence in summer, the nymph feels like part of the hidden structure of the pond itself, almost like another piece of the rooted and muddy world below. This makes a pond seem richer once it is understood. What appears calm from above is not empty underneath. Beneath the floating reflections and still surface, there are stems reaching upward, roots spreading through mud, drifting fragments of plant matter, and animals moving through the spaces between them. The dragonfly nymph belongs fully to this place. It is not visiting it. It is growing inside it, learning it, feeding within it, and waiting there through the long, unseen part of its life. That hidden phase gives dragonflies a strange and beautiful kind of depth. The adult seems so complete when people see it, that it is easy to assume the story begins there. But the truth is gentler and more surprising. The dragonfly that hovers so confidently over the pond was once part of the pond in a far more literal way. It lived in the quiet beneath the surface, where light breaks softly, where plants sway slowly, and where time seems to gather without being noticed. It is one of the quietest surprises in the dragonfly story. The elegant adult begins as something patient, submerged, and almost unseen. And this underwater life is not only hidden. It is long, stretching across months and often years, shaped by temperature, season, and the slow, steady rhythm of growth below the surface. Stay underwater a little longer, because this stage is not only hidden, it is also slow, extended, and shaped by time. The adult dragonfly can seem so complete when it appears above the pond that it is easy to think of it as the main event. It flashes through summer air with confidence, color, and control. But the truth is quieter than that. The dragonfly most people notice is the final visible form of a life that has already been unfolding for a very long time below the surface. For many dragonflies, the nymph stage lasts 1 to several years. Sometimes it is shorter, sometimes it stretches longer. Much depends on the kind of dragonfly, the temperature of the water, the food available, and the conditions of the habitat. But in general, the pattern remains the same. The underwater phase is not a quick waiting room before adulthood. It is the main body of the dragonfly's life. That changes the feeling of the whole story. The adult seems brief, not because it is unimportant, but because so much has come before it. The dragonfly in sunlight is not beginning its life. It is arriving late in it, after a long hidden period of growth that very few people ever witness. The pond has already been shaping that life in silence, month after month, season after season. Time moves differently underwater. Above the pond, the world seems filled with passing moments. Breezes move the grasses, light changes across the surface. A dragonfly flickers past and is gone. But below the waterline, the pace feels slower. Plants sway gently, mud settles, light drifts downward in broken patterns. The nymph lives inside this slower world, growing not in a rush, but gradually, almost patiently, as if the pond itself is teaching it how to take shape. Temperature plays a large role in this. In cooler water, development often slows down. Growth becomes more stretched, and the timeline can lengthen. In warmer conditions, life may move forward more quickly. So a dragonfly's hidden childhood is not measured by one fixed clock. It is tied to the place where it lives. The water, the season, the climate, and the habitat will leave their mark on how long the nymph remains below. Food matters too. A well-fed nymph can continue developing in a steadier way, while harsher conditions may slow things down. This makes the underwater stage feel even more connected to the health of the pond. Growth is not happening in isolation. It depends on the surrounding life, on the small creatures available to eat, on the plants that create shelter, and on the general balance of the water itself. As the nymph grows, it does not simply become larger in one smooth, unbroken way. Like many insects, it molts. That means it sheds its outer skin again and again as its body increases in size. Each molt marks another step forward, another quiet moment of change hidden among stems and mud. From above the surface, none of this can be seen. A pond can look completely calm, while an entire life is moving through stage after stage below it. There is something beautiful about that invisibility. So much change happens in nature without announcing itself. The dragonfly's underwater growth is one of those changes. A person can walk past the same pond in summer, autumn, winter, and spring, and have no idea that beneath the surface, young dragonflies are slowly developing through cold and warmth, through dim months and bright ones, through long periods where almost nothing seems to happen at all. And yet something is always happening. That is part of what makes the adult dragonfly feel so rich once its life cycle is understood. Its confidence in the air is not sudden. Its body was not formed in a moment. The poised flyer above the reeds was built slowly, in darkness and green light, in mud and root shadow, through repeated molts and long patient growth. This gives the adult stage a different kind of meaning. It begins to feel less like a beginning and more like a reveal, less like the first page of the story, and more like a form that has been quietly prepared for a very long time. The dragonfly that seems so effortless above the pond is carrying years inside it, even if that visible final stage is much shorter. Above the surface, very little hints at any of this. The water may look still. The plants may seem ordinary. The season may pass without drawing attention to the life below. But hidden under that calm surface, time is gathering. Bodies are growing. Old skins are being shed. The pond is holding a future that has not yet climbed into the air. This long, unseen preparation makes the adult dragonfly feel less like a beginning and more like an arrival. But before air comes flight, there is one more remarkable skill to notice underwater, because the nymph is not only growing below the surface, it is hunting there too, with a method so strange and precise that it almost feels like something from another creature entirely. A nymph does not hunt underwater the way an adult hunts in the air. It has its own method, and it is one of the strangest parts of the dragonfly life cycle. By the time a dragonfly is living below the pond surface, it is already a predator. It is not simply waiting to grow. It is not drifting through the water in a passive way. It is watching, holding still, and feeding on the smaller lives around it. But because the nymph lives in water rather than air, it cannot hunt in the same smooth, hovering way that the adult dragonfly later will. The underwater world is denser, slower, and more crowded. Movement works differently there, so the nymph has a very different kind of tool. Hidden beneath its head is a special lower jaw called the labium. At first, that may sound like a small detail, but it changes the whole feeling of the nymph's life. This is not just a mouthpart in the ordinary sense. It is a hinged structure that can extend outward with surprising speed. When the right moment comes, the labium can shoot forward and seize prey almost before the eye could follow it. Then it folds back again, bringing the prey in close. It is a remarkable design for a creature that spends so much of its life concealed. The nymph does not need to chase constantly through the pond. It can remain still among mud, roots, and underwater plants, waiting for movement to come near. Then, in a sudden motion, the hidden tool does its work. This makes the nymph feel very different from the adult dragonfly, yet strangely connected to it as well. Both forms depend on timing. Both depend on noticing motion. Both succeed not through clumsy force, but through precision. The difference is in the style of the world around them. Above the pond, the adult dragonfly moves through light and open air. Below it, the nymph lives in a quieter place, where space is tighter and everything is softened by water. Stems rise around it. Bits of plant matter drift by. Light breaks into faint patterns. The ground below may be muddy, and the water may hold all kinds of tiny lives moving in slow and hidden ways. In that setting, the labium makes perfect sense. It allows the nymph to let the world come close, then answer in an instant. This hidden tool allows the nymph to catch a wide range of prey. It may feed on insect larvae, tiny crustaceans, worms, and other small aquatic animals. Some larger nymphs can even take tadpoles or small fish. That may sound surprising for a creature many people never think about at all, but it fits with everything else in the dragonfly story. Even in this early stage, the dragonfly is already highly capable. It is already built to survive by awareness, timing, and effective motion. And yet the feeling of the nymph is not one of aggression. That is important, especially in a quiet pond setting. The nymph does not usually seem wild or chaotic. It seems patient. It may remain still for long stretches, blending into its surroundings so fully that it is almost impossible to notice. It becomes part of the underwater margin, one more shape among roots and stems. Then, only when the moment is right, it acts. The suddenness belongs to the tool, not to the whole mood of the animal. There is something almost mysterious about that. A dragonfly nymph can spend years in the pond, hidden from view, carrying inside itself this unusual mechanism, this folded answer to the problem of hunting underwater. The pond from above may look peaceful and simple, but below the surface, there are bodies waiting in silence, prepared for motion at exactly the right time. The more closely this is understood, the richer the pond begins to feel. It is not only a place of reflections and reeds, it is also a place of quiet ambush, of long patience, and of lives unfolding out of sight. This hidden hunting method also deepens the dragonfly's double identity. The adult hunts in the air with vision, wings, and basket-like legs. The nymph hunts underwater with concealment and a striking extendable jaw. One life leads into the other. The setting changes, the body changes, the medium changes from water to air, but a thread remains the same. At every stage, the dragonfly is shaped around careful awareness and exact action. That is part of what makes the dragonfly life cycle feel so complete. The underwater stage is not empty preparation for the real story later. It is already a rich and capable life of its own. The nymph is not a rough draft of the adult. It is a fully functioning creature, fitted to its world with strange elegance. For years it lives this way, tucked into the underwater margins. Then, when the time is right, the whole direction of its life changes. The hidden hunter leaves the water, climbs into open air, and begins one of the quietest and most beautiful transformations in the natural world. The change from underwater life to air does not happen in a rush. It begins with a climb. For a long time, the dragonfly nymph has belonged to the world below the surface. It has lived among stems, roots, drifting plant matter, and mud. It has grown there slowly. It has hunted there quietly. It has remained hidden through seasons that passed unnoticed above the pond. Then, after all that time, a different moment arrives. The nymph does not suddenly become an adult underwater. It must first leave the place that shaped it. So it climbs. When the nymph is fully grown, it leaves the water and makes its way upward onto something solid. This may be a reed, a stem, a rock, a waterside branch, or another support near the edge. The movement is simple to describe, but strange to imagine. A creature that has spent most of its life submerged now begins to lift itself into open air, step by step, body emerging from the world it has known for so long. There is something very quiet about this moment. The pond may look the same as it did before. The water may still reflect the sky. Plants may sway only slightly. Nothing announces that a major change is beginning. And yet, on one stem or one low rock, the nymph has started its final journey as an underwater creature. It is no longer fully part of the pond below, but it is not yet part of the air above either. It is between worlds. Different dragonflies may do this at different times. Some climb out in the morning light. Others do so at night or in darkness, when the world around the pond feels cooler and more hidden. In either case, the feeling is much the same. The nymph leaves the water quietly. It does not burst upward. It does not race into a new life. It simply finds its way out and upward, as though following an old instruction carried within it all along. Once it reaches a suitable place, it may pause. That pause matters. The nymph is no longer swimming or resting underwater. It is holding itself in open air, attached to a stem or surface, waiting. During this time, the transition has already begun. The body is preparing for the final molt. The old life is not fully over, but it is loosening. The new life is not fully visible, but it is close. This stage feels very different from the confidence of the adult dragonfly. The adult seems made for command of the air. It hovers, turns, and flies with perfect control. The nymph at this moment is exposed and vulnerable. It cannot slip easily back into the water and continue as before. It cannot yet fly away. It is fixed in place, dependent on stillness, timing, and the quiet support of whatever it has climbed onto. That vulnerability gives the moment much of its power. The dragonfly story has already included years of hidden growth and careful underwater hunting. But this stage carries a different kind of tension. The nymph is out in the open now. It is visible in a way it has rarely been before. Yet it remains almost motionless, clinging to a reed or stem while the air moves around it. The scene can feel strangely suspended, as though the pond itself has paused. And perhaps that is why this moment feels so beautiful. Nothing dramatic is happening on the surface. No color has appeared yet. No wings are spread. No bright adult is hovering in sunlight. What exists instead is stillness, and inside that stillness, change. The nymph has climbed out of one life and is waiting at the edge of another. It is one of the quietest thresholds in nature, easy to miss entirely, but unforgettable once imagined clearly. The support it chooses matters too. A reed rising from the shallows, a firm plant stem, the side of a rock, even a small branch near the waterline can become the place where the transformation begins. These ordinary surfaces become, for a short time, the resting place of an entire life turning outward. What was once a simple plant near the pond edge becomes a ladder out of water. What was once just a rock becomes a platform between two forms. And all of this happens without hurry. That may be the loveliest part. The change from underwater life to air is not violent. It is not rushed. It happens by climbing, holding, and waiting. After years in the pond, the dragonfly does not tear itself free from the world below. It leaves carefully and then becomes still. Then the old outer body gives way, and one of the most delicate transformations in the insect world begins. This moment deserves to be seen slowly. The dragonfly does not leap out of its old life. It unfolds from it. Once the nymph has climbed out of the water and settled onto a stem, reed, rock, or branch, there is often a period of stillness. The body remains fixed in place. The pond may look calm. Light may rest on the water without changing much at all. And then, little by little, something begins to happen. The old outer skin, which has held the nymph's underwater body through all those months or years, starts to open. It splits along the back. That small opening marks the beginning of one of the quietest transformations in the natural world. The nymph does not disappear and get replaced. The adult dragonfly is already there inside, folded, pale, and waiting. As the split widens, the new body begins to push outward. First, the upper body starts to emerge, then the head and thorax, slowly easing free from the shell that has carried the nymph through its underwater life. It is not a quick process. The new dragonfly does not pull itself out in one smooth, easy motion. It works gradually. There may be pauses. There may be moments when almost nothing seems to happen at all. Then, a little more of the body slips free. The legs begin to emerge. The dragonfly braces itself carefully, using what is available to hold and steady the new form as it continues to pull away from the old one. Later, the abdomen follows, longer and softer than it will eventually become. At this stage, the dragonfly can look surprisingly fragile. The adult that will one day hover with confidence above the water does not appear fully formed right away. At first, it may look pale, soft, and almost unfinished. The colors that people associate with dragonflies are not yet strong. The body may seem light in tone, delicate and tender, as though it has not fully entered the world yet. It is a strange contrast. The creature that will soon seem so exact and capable begins this stage in a condition that feels almost vulnerable enough to vanish. That softness is part of what makes Emergence so beautiful. Nothing about it feels mechanical in a cold way. Even though the process is exact, it feels patient. The old body opens, the new body eases free. There is effort, but it is quiet effort. The dragonfly is not fighting its way out. It is slowly taking shape in the air, as though the form that has been hidden so long underwater is finally being allowed to appear. There is often another pause once much of the body has emerged. This pause matters because the dragonfly is not ready yet. Parts of the new body need time to begin hardening. It may remain still, attached to the old cast skin and the surface beneath it, while the shape settles and the transformation continues. This stillness can make the moment feel almost suspended outside of time. The pond remains the same. the stem remains the same. But on that one small support, an entire life has shifted direction. The empty cast skin remains behind. That old shell has a name: exuvia. It is the nymph's outer skin, left attached to the reed, stem, rock, or branch after the new dragonfly has emerged. If someone were to look closely, the exuvia would still hold the shape of the underwater life that came before, as if the pond has been given a small record of what once lived beneath its surface. It is one of the clearest signs that a transformation has happened there, even after the adult has gone. There is something deeply moving about that old shell remaining in place. It shows that the dragonfly has not simply grown bigger. It has left one form behind. The pond still holds evidence of that earlier life, clinging quietly to the surface where the emergence took place. For a little while, both stages seem present at once. The old one remains attached and empty. The new one rests above it, soft and waiting. This helps the whole life cycle feel more real. The adult dragonfly that will soon move through sunlight is not separate from the nymph that lived in mud and roots below the waterline. The two are directly connected. One has unfolded from the other in full view, slowly enough that the continuity can actually be imagined. The graceful flyer above the reeds did not appear from nowhere. It came carefully out of a hidden underwater life and carried that history with it into the air. Even now, though, the transformation is not complete. The dragonfly has emerged, but it is not ready for flight. Its wings are still soft, flat, and waiting, and the long, bright life above the pond has not fully begun. After emergence comes a quieter stage, one defined less by motion than by expansion. The dragonfly has pulled itself free from the old nymph skin, but it is still not the dragonfly most people would recognize in flight. It cannot lift into the air yet. It cannot hover above the pond or turn in the sunlight. For the moment, it remains where it emerged, clinging to the same stem or surface, while the new body continues shaping itself in the open air. This part of the transformation is easy to overlook, but it may be one of the most delicate moments of all. At first, the wings do not look ready for anything. They are soft, folded, and small compared with the wide transparent structures they will soon become. The abdomen, too, is not yet at its final length or firmness. The whole new body still carries the softness of something freshly emerged. It has left the water, and it has left the old outer shell, but it has not yet fully become a creature of the air. So the body begins to fill. Fluids are pumped into the wings and abdomen, helping them lengthen and take shape. This is one of the strangest and most beautiful parts of the process to imagine. The dragonfly does not build its wings outward piece by piece from the outside. Instead, the wings unfold and expand from their smaller folded state, opening gradually into their full span. The abdomen lengthens as well, becoming more like the long, balanced form people associate with the adult. It happens slowly enough to feel almost ceremonial. A person watching carefully might notice the wings growing wider and clearer over time, their shape becoming more complete with each passing stretch of stillness. What began as a soft, crumpled form becomes something finer, straighter, and more recognizable. The network inside the wings starts to seem more defined. The proportions of the body settle. The dragonfly begins to resemble itself. Yet even this shaping is not hurried. the dragonfly remains attached to its support, held between stillness and readiness. The pond continues on around it. Water reflects the sky. Plants move lightly in the breeze. Nothing in the landscape announces that a major transformation is taking place. And still, on one reed or branch, a small body is quietly filling out into a new life. This hardening and drying can take 1 to several hours. That slowness matters. It gives the transformation a calm feeling, almost the opposite of the sudden movements the adult dragonfly will later be known for. There is no darting now, no hovering, no hunting, no quick turns. There is only waiting, expansion, and gradual firmness. The body needs time. The wings need time. The dragonfly must remain in this still, exposed state until the softness of emergence gives way to the structure needed for flight. During this stage, there may be small signs of change. The abdomen may tremble lightly. The wings may flick a little. Tiny motions pass through the body, not as full movement, but as hints that things are continuing to settle into place. These gestures can seem almost private, like small adjustments in a process too quiet to fully reveal itself. The dragonfly is alive with change, but the change does not look dramatic. It looks patient. There is a particular beauty in that patience. So much of the dragonfly story has involved hidden growth. Years underwater, slow development among roots and mud, a careful climb out of the pond, a gradual emergence from the old skin. Now, even after reaching open air, the transformation still refuses to rush. It is as though the dragonfly must pass through one final lesson in stillness before it can enter its bright adult life. This stage also deepens the contrast between the nymph and the adult. The underwater hunter was compact, concealed, and close to the pond bottom. The new dragonfly is becoming long, open, and light-filled. The wings, once absent, are now spreading into their full, transparent shape. The body, once made for submerged patience, is now being prepared for balance in open air. Everything is changing direction, but so gently that the process feels less like a break and more like an unfolding. Only when the body is firm and the wings are ready can the first true flight begin. Until then, the dragonfly waits in the world above water, no longer what it was, but not yet fully what it will be. This in-between state may last only a short while compared with the years below the surface, but it carries a special kind of stillness, one of the last quiet moments before the adult enters sunlight and motion. It is a calm transformation, but a complete one. The underwater hunter has become a creature of sunlight and moving air. The adult dragonfly is the part people know best, yet it is often the shorter part of the story. This can feel surprising at first. The dragonfly in the air seems so complete, so perfectly formed, that it is easy to imagine this as the main part of its life. The long body, the transparent wings, the controlled flight, the bright presence above summer water. All of it feels like the finished expression of what a dragonfly is, and it is. But it is also only one chapter, and often a much shorter one than the hidden years that came before it. A dragonfly may spend a long time underwater as a nymph, then only weeks or a few months as an adult. That contrast changes the feeling of the whole creature. The visible dragonfly, the one that people admire above ponds and reeds, is not the longest stage of life. It is the most open one. It is the chapter that rises into sight after a much longer period of growth below the surface. In that sense, the adult dragonfly feels almost like the final bright page of a story that has been quietly written out of view. This helps explain why dragonflies can seem so fleeting. They appear in warm weather. They move through sunlight. They hover for a moment, then vanish from sight. There is something brief about the way people encounter them, and that briefness is real. Even when adult dragonflies live fully and actively through their season, they still carry a feeling of transience. They are not usually creatures of long public visibility. They are creatures of emergence, brightness, and motion, present for a while and then gone again. But this shortness does not make the adult stage less important. In many ways, it gives it more intensity. The adult phase is focused on the most visible and active parts of dragonfly life. Feeding, flying, hunting, pairing, laying eggs, and continuing the cycle all belong to this chapter. The adult does not drift into open air simply to exist there. It has work to do. It must make use of the body that has taken so long to prepare. So even though this stage is shorter, it is often full, purposeful, and concentrated. That is part of what makes the adult dragonfly feel so alive. Everything about it seems tuned. The wings are fully formed. The body is light and balanced. The eyes are alert. The flight is controlled. The dragonfly seems to arrive in the air ready. Not because the task is easy, but because so much hidden time has already gone into becoming what it now is. The adult stage has a polished feeling to it, as if the years underwater have been gathered and refined into this one bright form moving over water. Its visible grace is the result of long hidden preparation. That may be one of the loveliest things to remember when watching a dragonfly. The hovering adult can seem effortless, but nothing about it was sudden. The poise above the pond, the ease in the air, the confidence in its turns, all of it was slowly built in darkness, green water, and rooted shallows. The dragonfly does not become beautiful only when it grows wings. It carries beauty into the air from the long unseen life that made those wings possible. This can make the adult stage feel almost luminous, not only because of sunlight on the wings, but because it is the first fully visible form of everything that came before. The dragonfly above the pond is not the whole life, but it is its most open chapter, the one most exposed to light, weather, and human attention. It is the moment when the hidden becomes visible, when a creature formed in mud and stems enters sky and reflection and warm air. And because that visible chapter is shorter, it often feels seasonal in a deep way. Dragonflies seem to belong to certain months more than others. Their presence can make a pond feel fully alive in summer. Their absence can make the same place feel quieter, even if the water and plants remain. They carry the mood of a season with them, not only because of when they appear, but because they themselves are part of a timed and passing cycle. They do not stay suspended forever in the bright phase of life. They move through it. Still, there is no sadness in that, only rhythm. The dragonfly's brief adult life does not feel incomplete. It feels concentrated, shaped by purpose, movement, and return. The air stage is shorter, but it is not thin. It is rich with activity. It has feeding, flight, attention, pairing, and the continuation of the next generation gathered into it. It is short the way summer flowers are short, or certain evenings are short. Brief, but full enough to stay in memory. And because this chapter is brief, it is active. The adult does not drift without purpose. It returns again and again to the water that shaped it, tracing familiar edges, hovering near reeds, and remaining tied to the freshwater world, even while living above it. Watch a dragonfly over a pond for a while, and its movement begins to feel less random than it first seemed. The same stretch of water is crossed again. The same opening between reeds draws it back. The same stem becomes a resting place. After a few minutes, a pattern starts to appear. The dragonfly is moving through familiar space, returning to certain areas with quiet consistency, as though the air above the pond has roots and boundaries that only it can fully see. Many adult dragonflies patrol particular areas. They travel back and forth above the water, often staying close to pond edges, patches of reeds, floating plants, or sunny openings where insects are active. A dragonfly may trace a line above the surface, turn sharply, and repeat the same path again. Then it may rise slightly, pause, and return once more. Over time, these repeated movements make the space feel organized, almost mapped out in the air. This gives dragonflies a strong connection to place. Even though they are excellent flyers, much of adult life stays centered around water and the spaces beside it. Certain parts of a pond become important: a patch of open surface, a stand of grasses, a warm stem near the edge. All of these can become part of a daily rhythm. The dragonfly keeps returning, as if it has learned the shape of that small world and chosen where to spend its energy. That repeated movement can be easy to miss at first. A dragonfly is so graceful that its roots can blend into the landscape. The back and forth motion becomes part of the summer scene, woven into the still water, the bright air, and the thin shadows of plants. But the longer it is watched, the more deliberate it feels. There is structure in the movement. There is attention in the way the dragonfly circles back. There is memory in the way it reappears over the same patch of water. For many dragonflies, this repeated use of space is tied to territory. A certain stretch of pond edge may become worth watching over. A sunny opening above the water may be visited again and again. The dragonfly moves through these spaces with steady awareness, often keeping the area in view while passing over it in loops or straight patrol lines. This gives the adult stage a focused feeling. The dragonfly is living in the air, but it remains closely anchored to a small part of the freshwater world below. There is something beautiful about that closeness. A dragonfly can seem light enough to belong anywhere, yet it often stays deeply connected to a particular place. It learns the edges. It returns to the same roots. It hovers near the same stems. That makes its presence feel stronger. The dragonfly is not just a passing shape in summer light. It becomes part of the identity of the pond itself, one more repeating feature of the landscape, like the reeds, the reflections, or the shadows near the bank. Pairing adds another layer to this pattern. At certain times, adult dragonflies begin moving in ways shaped by reproduction. Two dragonflies may fly together in a distinct arrangement, circle over the water, or settle near vegetation at the edge. These moments stand out from the usual solitary flight. The movement may look more connected, more intentional, and briefly more intricate, as if two separate paths have joined within the same small part of the pond. These pairing behaviors stay closely linked to freshwater places. The water remains central because it will receive the next stage of life. The adults return to these areas again and again because this is where eggs will be laid, where new nymphs will develop, and where the cycle continues. The dragonfly's life above the pond keeps bending back toward the water, even during the most active part of adulthood. Flight, pairing, resting, and returning all stay woven into the same setting. That is part of what makes dragonflies feel so memorable. Their movement carries purpose, but it also carries familiarity. A dragonfly does not simply appear and vanish into endless open air. It traces a relationship with a real place. It flies above the same water, the same stems, the same summer edge where sunlight and life gather together. Over time, this gives the pond a feeling of being inhabited in a deeper way. The air above the water begins to seem full of invisible paths. One dragonfly crosses them, turns and returns. Another pauses on a reed, then lifts again into the same bright space. The pond becomes layered with repetition, as though the dragonflies have written their presence into the landscape through motion alone. Their lives remain closely tied to the water that raised them, and that bond gives their summer flight a sense of belonging that stays in the memory long after they are gone. And once that bond with place is felt clearly, another part of their beauty becomes easier to notice too. Their bodies and wings do not only move through summer light, they seem shaped by it, catching it, carrying it, and changing with it from one angle to the next. Some of the dragonfly's beauty comes from the way body and wing meet light. A dragonfly can be vivid and almost invisible within the same few seconds. It may flash blue over the water, then turn and seem to disappear except for a brief shimmer. It may rest on a stem and look metallic in the sun, then soften into something pale and nearly transparent as the angle changes. This shifting quality is part of what makes dragonflies so memorable. They do not hold one fixed appearance for very long. They seem to keep changing with the air around them. Their bodies can carry remarkable color. Some dragonflies show clear blues, greens, reds, bronzes, or gold-like tones. Others appear darker and more subtle, with colors that reveal themselves only when light lands on them in the right way. Even within a single pond, different dragonflies can seem to belong to different palettes, as though summer has scattered small pieces of sky, leaf, copper, and water into living form. The colors are never only decoration. They become part of how the dragonfly is recognized, remembered, and felt within the landscape. Yet the wings may be the most unusual part of all. They remain transparent, and that transparency gives dragonflies a special kind of presence. The wings do not hide the world behind them. They allow light through. At the same time, they are full of structure, crossed by a fine network of veins that give shape and strength to something that might otherwise seem too delicate to hold. Looking at a dragonfly wing can feel like looking at clear glass traced with the thinnest lines, a design so light that it seems almost temporary. That mixture of visibility and invisibility changes the whole impression of the insect. A bird has feathers. A butterfly has broad colored wings. A dragonfly carries surfaces that seem made equally of light and air. In one moment, the wings are obvious, flashing with brightness. In another, they almost vanish, leaving only the body clearly visible. This makes the dragonfly feel less solid than many other creatures, as though it belongs partly to the material world and partly to the shifting brightness around it. Sunlight deepens this effect. When a dragonfly moves through warm afternoon air, the body can gleam like a jewel. The wings may flare with a quick silver shine or a faint rainbow hint before becoming clear again. Even a still dragonfly resting on a reed can seem alive with changing detail as the sun shifts across it. A slight movement of the insect, a small turn of the body, or a passing change in the angle of light can alter the entire way it appears. Distance matters too. From nearby, the fine structure of the wings and the color of the body may be easy to notice. From farther away, much of that detail falls away, and the dragonfly becomes something simpler, a thin body, a glint, a small suspended line over water. This change with distance adds to the dragonfly's mystery. It can feel highly detailed when close, then almost abstract when seen from the other side of the pond. Time of day changes it again. Morning light may make a dragonfly seem gentler, with softer color and a quieter shine. Midday can sharpen everything, turning body color brighter and making wing reflections more intense. Evening light can warm the whole insect, washing blue into bronze and silver into gold. The dragonfly does not leave summer light unchanged. It receives it and reflects it back in shifting ways. This helps explain why dragonflies feel so tied to warm weather. Their presence belongs beautifully with sunlit water, still air, and the bright edges of reeds and grasses. A dragonfly in cold grey light would still be itself, but so much of its visible charm comes alive in clear weather. Summer allows the body colors to glow and the wings to shimmer. It gives the dragonfly the setting where its lightness can be fully seen. And because of that, dragonflies often feel like part of the season itself. They do not only appear during warm months. They seem to carry the look of those months inside them. Their transparent wings resemble heat and brightness. Their colors echo water, leaves, sky, and sun-warmed earth. Their presence can make a pond feel fully arrived in summer, as though the season has reached one of its most delicate and complete expressions. That close tie between dragonflies and warm weather has deeper reasons too, because the timing of their lives is shaped by season, temperature, and the slow rhythms that guide when they emerge, fly, and fill the air above the water. Dragonflies are not only shaped by water and light, they are also shaped by warmth and timing. A dragonfly can seem so closely tied to summer that it almost feels like part of the season itself. The sight of one hovering above still water or resting on a warm stem near the edge of a pond fits naturally into the feeling of bright months. Warm air, long light, green reeds, and dragonflies all seem to belong together. That connection is beautiful, but it is also deeply practical. The timing of a dragonfly's life is closely linked to temperature, season, and the changing pace of the year. Adult dragonflies are most often seen in the warmer months. Spring, summer, and in some places early autumn are the seasons when they tend to appear most clearly in the open air. This is when ponds feel alive with insects, when water plants are growing, and when warmth supports active flight. The dragonflies people remember are usually the adults, the shining forms above water, and those adults tend to belong to the part of the year when the landscape itself feels open, active, and full. Temperature shapes much of this. Warmth influences how quickly dragonflies develop, how active they are, and when they emerge into adult life. A cool season can slow growth and delay emergence. A warmer season can help bring movement sooner. The dragonfly's life does not unfold on a single fixed calendar that is the same everywhere. It is guided by local conditions, by the rhythm of the place, by how long the water stays cold, how quickly the air warms, and how the season settles over the pond. That is one reason dragonflies feel so connected to still ponds and hot air. Their adult lives arrive at the time of year when warmth is strong enough to support flight, and when the insects they feed on are also moving through the air in greater numbers. The pond edge becomes busy in a quiet way. Midges, flies, and other small insects rise and drift. Reeds stand in bright light. Dragonflies appear among them. The whole scene comes together through seasonal timing, each part shaped by the same warm stretch of the year. This seasonal appearance gives dragonflies a special emotional quality. They seem to arrive with the season rather than merely inside it. When they begin appearing above the water, a place can feel as though it has entered a different phase of the year. The pond is no longer only wet and green. It has reached dragonfly time. Their return can make a landscape feel more complete, more fully summer, more settled into warmth and light. Different places shape this timing in different ways. In some regions, one generation may appear each year, moving through its cycle with a fairly clear seasonal pattern. In warmer climates, the timing can be more flexible, and the cycle may not feel quite so sharply divided. Some dragonflies may emerge earlier, others later. Some places offer a long, active season, while others offer only a short, bright window. This means dragonflies are always living in relationship with local time, not only with the broad idea of summer. That local timing makes them feel even more woven into place. A dragonfly at one pond may appear during a certain stretch of warm weeks, while at another pond farther north or farther south, the timing may be different. One place may see dragonflies rise into the air as spring deepens. Another may wait until high summer. The life cycle responds quietly to the conditions around it, letting temperature and seasons shape when wings fill the air. Their disappearance is part of this rhythm too. Dragonflies do not remain above the pond all year. They come into visibility, move through their warm season, and then fade from sight again. That vanishing gives them a special place in memory. They are present for a while, bright and active in the open air, and then the pond returns to another mood. The reeds remain, the water remains, but something light-filled has passed on. This makes dragonflies feel like part of the year's breathing, arriving and withdrawing with the seasons. There is something restful in that rhythm. A dragonfly does not force itself into every month. It appears when the world around it is ready. Warm water, warm air, growing plants, active insect life, and the right conditions for emergence all come together, and the dragonfly rises into view. Then, in time, that visible chapter closes again. The cycle remains patient, shaped by the same broad seasonal order that guides leaves, flowers, birdsong, and summer heat. This helps explain why dragonflies leave such a strong impression. They belong to a season that many people already notice deeply. Sunlight on water, warm afternoons, the soundless shimmer of wings over reeds, all of it gathers into a mood that feels both vivid and passing. Dragonflies carry that feeling beautifully. They seem to hold a piece of summer in their bodies and release it back into the air as they move. Widen the lens now. Dragonflies belong to backyard ponds, but also to a much larger map. It is easy to think of dragonflies as local creatures. A pond near a walking path, a marsh at the edge of town, a slow stream behind tall summer grass. These are the places where many people meet them, and because of that, dragonflies can seem small in range, tied to one familiar scene of warm light and still water. But their story is far wider than any single pond. Dragonflies live across much of the world, and their presence reaches into many kinds of freshwater-linked landscapes. They can be found near marshes, riversides, wetlands, lakes, slow streams, and quiet pools. Some live beside large bodies of water that stretch toward the horizon. Others make use of small and temporary places, shallow pools, ditches, or seasonal waters that appear for a while and then fade again. Wherever fresh water creates the right conditions for eggs, nymphs, and adult life, dragonflies may find a way to belong. Their lives remain closely tied to water, but that water can take many forms. This gives dragonflies a broad and flexible geography. They do not belong only to one style of pond or one narrow kind of climate. Some species thrive in cooler northern regions, where the season for adult life is short and the underwater years can stretch longer. Others live in warmer places where water remains suitable for more of the year, and emergence can follow a different rhythm. Some dragonflies are most at home in calm, still water. Others prefer the edges of streams or rivers, where the movement of water adds a different character to the habitat. Different species are shaped by different regions. That is part of what makes dragonflies so rich as a group. The dragonfly someone sees near a northern wetland may live a very different seasonal life from the one seen above tropical water or beside a warm southern marsh. Body size, color, timing, behavior, and habitat preference can all vary. Yet through all of that variation, the same deeper pattern remains. Water, growth, emergence, flight, and return still form the core of the life cycle. This makes dragonflies feel both intimate and expansive at the same time. A single dragonfly resting on a reed feels very specific, very local, almost personal to that one place and that one moment. But behind that small sight is a much larger truth. Dragonflies as a whole are spread across continents and climates, woven into many different kinds of freshwater worlds. The small insect above a local pond belongs to a family of lives taking shape in wetlands, river margins, lake shores, and seasonal waters far beyond what the eye can see from one bank. Some dragonflies remain closely tied to a particular area. They emerge, hunt, pair, and spend their visible adult lives within a fairly limited range. Their world may be centered around a certain pond system, marsh, or cluster of wet places that provide what they need. These dragonflies deepen the sense that a place is inhabited in a lasting way. Their presence gives continuity to the landscape, a feeling that the same waters are supporting the same returning lives from one season to the next. Other dragonflies are capable of much greater movement. They may travel across fields, along waterways, through changing weather, and across long stretches of land in search of suitable conditions. This ability makes dragonflies feel larger than their size suggests. A creature that seems so delicate above a single pond can also be part of a wider flow of movement across a region. The body remains light, but the map around it grows. That contrast is one of the loveliest things about dragonflies. They are easy to meet in small places. A garden pond, a quiet lake edge, a narrow stream in summer. Yet the group they belong to is not small in reach. Dragonflies are both near and far, local and wide-ranging, familiar and unexpectedly global. The same kind of creature that hovers above a reed in one town may have close relatives living in wetlands half a world away, answering to different light, different weather, and different waters. This broad distribution also makes dragonflies feel like part of something older and deeper than a single landscape. They are not an isolated wonder of one pond. They are a recurring form of life carried across many places, shaped again and again by fresh water, season, and air. They appear in quiet corners and wide habitats alike, linking distant regions through the same basic pattern of hidden growth below and visible grace above. And in a few cases, global is not an exaggeration. Some dragonflies travel with a scale that seems almost impossible for an insect so light. This is where the quiet pond insect begins to feel almost mythic, though the facts themselves are enough. By this point, the dragonfly already seems richer than it did at the beginning. It carries years of hidden growth, a life divided between water and air, and a level of flight control that can feel almost unreal above a summer pond. But there is another part of the story that stretches the imagination even further. Some dragonflies do not remain close to one marsh, one lake edge, or one familiar patch of reeds. Some travel across distances so large that the scale hardly seems to fit the body. One of the most remarkable of these travelers is the globe skimmer. Its name already sounds light and far-reaching, and in many ways it is. The globe skimmer is known for taking part in migrations that span enormous distances. This is not the kind of movement people usually imagine when they picture a dragonfly. A dragonfly hovering above a pond feels local, delicate, and immediate. The globe skimmer adds another layer to that image. It reveals that a dragonfly can also belong to roots that stretch across regions and even across open sea. The journey is not completed by one single insect alone. It is a multi-generational movement, which means the full route unfolds across several lives. One generation carries part of the journey, the next continues it, and another may complete the cycle. This makes the migration feel less like one animal forcing itself across the world, and more like a living thread being passed onward. The movement belongs to the species across time, not only to one body in one season. That idea carries a quiet beauty of its own. A dragonfly is already a creature shaped by stages, timing, and transformation. The globe skimmer extends that feeling outward. Its migration becomes another long pattern made of separate lives joined together. A route across water and weather is carried forward generation by generation, almost like a seasonal memory written into motion. Parts of this migration may include crossing more than 2,000 kilometers of open ocean. That is one of the details that makes the mind pause. Open ocean feels like the domain of larger creatures, birds, currents, ships, storms, and horizons. To imagine a dragonfly as part of such a crossing changes the scale of the animal entirely. The same kind of creature that might rest on a reed near a small pond can also take part in a journey over wide salt water, with no bank, no grasses, and no familiar pond edge in sight. The body remains small, but the world around it becomes immense. Winds play an important role in making such movement possible. Favorable air currents can help carry globe skimmers over long distances, allowing them to travel with the help of larger patterns moving through the sky. In this way, the dragonfly is not simply beating its wings against an impossible space. It is moving with weather, with air, with conditions that make long travel possible. There is something fitting about that. A creature so skilled at reading the air close to a pond also becomes, in another setting, a traveler shaped by great movements of atmosphere. Soaring strategies help as well. The dragonfly does not rely only on constant effort. It can make use of the world around it, taking advantage of wind and movement in ways that help carry it farther. This gives the migration a feeling of partnership with the planet itself. Air, season, route, and body all come together. The journey becomes possible because the dragonfly is well suited to motion, and because the larger world offers moments when motion can be sustained across astonishing distance. Over a full cycle, globe skimmers may cover around 18,000 kilometers. For an insect of this size, that is extraordinary. The number itself is large, but the deeper wonder lies in what it means. A dragonfly is no longer only a creature of a single pond or marsh. It can be part of a movement spanning continents, coastlines, monsoon systems, and open sea. The familiar summer flyer is suddenly connected to a map far larger than the one most people imagine when they see wings flashing above fresh water. And still, the dragonfly does not lose its local beauty. That may be the loveliest part of all. Knowing that some dragonflies travel at such scale does not make the quiet pond seem less meaningful. It makes it richer. The local and the immense begin to live together in the same small body. A dragonfly can belong to the close world of stems and reflections, and also to planetary routes traced through wind and season. So the dragonfly becomes both local and immense, a creature of pond edges and planetary movement. That contrast deepens the feeling of every familiar sighting, because the small insect above still water now seems to carry far more space inside it than its size first suggested. Return now from distance to ecology. Dragonflies are lovely to watch, but they also tell quiet truths about the places where they live. A dragonfly above a pond can feel like a small and separate wonder, a bright body moving through warm air for its own brief season. But the more closely its life is understood, the harder it becomes to see it as separate from the water below. A dragonfly is woven into the life of a wetland from beginning to end. Its presence says something about the place itself, about what the water can support, what the plants are holding, and what kinds of hidden life are moving quietly beneath the surface. This begins in the nymph stage. As larvae, dragonflies are part of the underwater food web. They feed on smaller creatures living in the pond, including insect larvae and other tiny animals sharing the water. This makes them active participants in the life of the wetland long before wings appear. They are not just growing there, they are shaping the balance of the place around them, feeding, surviving, and becoming one thread among many in the larger pattern of pond life. Later, as adults, they continue playing a similar role in the air. A dragonfly may consume many small flying insects, including mosquitoes, midges, and flies. Seen this way, the adult dragonfly is part of the exchange between water and sky. It rises out of the pond after years below the surface, then begins feeding on the creatures moving above it. The life cycle connects two worlds. Underwater hunting becomes aerial hunting. The wetland supports both stages, and the dragonfly carries that connection visibly into the open air. Yet dragonflies are not only hunters. They are also food for other animals. Fish may eat their nymphs below the surface. Frogs, birds, and other creatures may catch them above the water or along the pond edge. So the dragonfly belongs to the wetland in multiple directions at once. It feeds on smaller lives, and it also becomes part of the lives of larger ones. This gives the dragonfly an important place in the flow of energy through a habitat. It is both participant and connection, carrying nourishment and movement from one level of the ecosystem to another. That is part of what makes dragonflies so revealing. They do not appear in isolation. Their lives depend on a whole chain of conditions being in place. The water must be suitable for eggs and nymphs. The pond must hold enough small life to support growth. Plants and stems must provide shelter, surfaces, and structure. The surrounding air must offer insects to hunt. When dragonflies are present, they often suggest that many quiet parts of the habitat are working together at once. Clean, oxygen-rich fresh water is especially important. Young dragonflies spend so long in the water that the quality of that water matters deeply. A healthy pond or wetland gives them the conditions they need to grow, hunt, and complete their long hidden stage. Because of this, dragonflies can serve as signs of living waters that are functioning well. Their presence may suggest that the wetland still has enough balance, oxygen, plant life, and ecological richness to support a full cycle of growth. Even the variety of dragonflies in a place can tell a story. A pond with many kinds of dragonflies may be offering a richer range of conditions than one with very little life at all. Abundance matters too. When dragonflies are numerous, when different sizes and colors are moving through the same summer air, it can point toward a habitat with depth, complexity, and continuity. The water below may look simple on the surface, but the dragonflies above it hint at layers of unseen health. This makes them feel like more than decoration. A dragonfly over a pond is beautiful, but it is also meaningful. It suggests rooted plants below, larvae in the shallows, insects in the air, fish in deeper water, and birds nearby. It suggests that the wetland is alive across many levels at once. The dragonfly becomes a visible expression of all that hidden support, a small shining sign that the place is working as a place should. Perhaps that is part of why dragonflies hold human attention so well. They are easy to admire for their wings, color, and flight. But somewhere beneath that beauty is another feeling too. The sense that they belong to something larger than themselves. A dragonfly, is never only a body in sunlight. It is also evidence of roots in mud, oxygen in water, prey in the air, and a living system holding together quietly beneath the surface. And once that is felt, even a single dragonfly can make a pond seem fuller, deeper, and more alive than it first appeared. Now return to the image that began everything. Still water, a warm bank, a stem rising out of the shallows, a dragonfly hovering in place. At the beginning, it may have seemed like a small and simple sight. Just an insect above a pond, light enough to pass through the scene without changing it very much. A thin body, clear wings, a brief pause in the summer air. But after spending this time with dragonflies, that same image begins to feel fuller. More seems to exist inside it. The insect is still small, still delicate in appearance, still quiet in the way it moves, and yet it carries much more than it first seemed to. A dragonfly above the water carries the weight of years. Before it ever reached this moment of sunlight and air, it lived another life below the surface. It grew among roots, stems, shadows, and mud. It hunted underwater. It waited through long stretches of time that no one standing above the pond could see. It climbed into the open only after that hidden life had already done most of its work. The dragonfly in the air is the final visible chapter of a much longer patient cycle. That changes the feeling of its flight. The hovering adult no longer seems like a creature that simply appeared one warm day. It feels like the result of deep preparation. Years of underwater life, careful transformation, and slow shaping have gathered into this one bright form. The wings now holding it steady above the pond were once soft and folded. The body once clung to a stem while air and sunlight finished the work that water had begun. Every clean turn in the air belongs to a much older story than the eye first notices. And inside that flight, many qualities come together at once. Ancient design is there, carried from a line of life that reaches far back into Earth's past. Precise vision is there, with eyes that nearly encircle the world and gather light in a way unlike our own. Quiet skill is there, in the way the dragonfly hovers, turns, and meets motion with such exact timing. Lightness is there too, in the transparent wings and the jewel-like body that seems to change with every shift of sun. All of it lives in one small creature above still water. The pond itself feels different now as well. A dragonfly above the surface is no longer only a lovely detail in the landscape. It becomes a sign of what lies below and around it. The water is not empty. The reeds are not just background. The mud, the roots, the oxygen in the pond, the insects in the air, the small lives below the surface. All of these are part of the same quiet system that made the dragonfly possible. Its presence connects the visible calm of the pond to the deeper health of the wetland itself. That may be why even the smallest dragonfly can begin to feel larger than its size. There is something about it that seems to hold together more than one world at once. Water and air meet in it. Hidden time and bright visibility meet in it. Stillness and speed meet in it. Summer warmth, freshwater life, and ancient inheritance all seem to gather into that one narrow body suspended above the reeds. The dragonfly remains small, but the meaning around it widens. And perhaps That is part of why dragonflies stay in memory so easily. They do not need to be loud. They do not need to fill the sky. A single dragonfly hovering above a quiet pond can be enough. It leaves an impression that feels out of proportion to its size, because so much is quietly present within it. The more gently it is understood, the more complete it becomes. The dragonfly turns from a familiar sight into a small meeting place of time, light, water, and life. So in the end, the dragonfly becomes simple again, though not ordinary. Just a small body over still water, wings catching the light, a brief pause in the warm air, then a turn, then a shimmer, then movement. And for a moment, the whole pond seems to move softly with it.